more on this, let's now bring in Nobubele Sam Mkandhla, a lawyer and founder of Lady Liberty South Africa, to weigh in on this issue. And she joins us now via our video link. And Ms. Mkandhla, thank you so much for your time this evening, ma'am. I mean, let's start off here. It seems as if gender-based violence in the country seems to be something that the country is battling with. And this follows just after the president has declared it a national state of disaster. And particularly now that we also come from marking the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence against women and children. What do you make of these efforts and this problem that we are faced with as a country when it comes to gender-based violence and femicide?
Thank you so much for having me. Just as the short summary that you've given, it's quite a sobering state of affairs. Gender-based violence is a very, very complex issue. We're dealing with several aggravators that continue to plague society: alcohol and substance abuse, poverty and unemployment, patriarchal systems, as well as mindsets that, if not addressed, continue to exacerbate the issue. So yes, we are very grateful for the declaration of the issue as a national disaster, because it is, and it has been for so many years. We're also grateful for the global UN campaign to raise awareness during the 16 days of activism from November 25 to December 10. But unfortunately, what we see as Lady Liberty on the ground is that the issues continue to plague society. Women are dying, and without a more consolidated and a collaborative approach, we'll have the same conversation year after year as we continue to lose lives.
And Ms. Mkandhla, when you look at the statistics, I mean, looking at this report, the HSRC's National Gender-Based Violence Study in 2022, finding that at least 35% of women over 18 in the country, I mean, have experienced some sort of gender-based violence, particularly by their intimate partners.
Absolutely. And I think what's also important to think about when we see and read these statistics is the fact that these are the cases that are reported. We have so many more women who are dying in silence, whose cases are not even making to these statistics that we talk about and we mention. And what we're also noticing is something that's happening within families, where even women and young girls who are younger than 18 are going through such difficult circumstances and are being abused emotionally, physically, sexually, and otherwise. And the family itself sometimes still sits with this conundrum of, you are not going to tell anyone, you are not going to humiliate the family, etc. So I think these honest conversations also need to go back to what's happening behind closed doors. I think government, corporates, organizations such as ourselves, and there's many doing amazing work, can only do so much if we don't address some of the things that are happening within the family settings, because then also some of the perpetrators are continuously protected, either because it's a recognized or respected family member, or it's someone who's financially supporting the family. And it goes back to those aggravators. If families are hungry, poverty and unemployment are not addressed, all of these factors continue to make the issue a lot worse.
And let's go back to something we also touched on a bit earlier on, and that's the issue around the declaration of a national disaster by the president. And this is, of course, at the end of that social summit we saw during the G20. And it seems as if when it comes to the state of disaster, classifying it, saying that there is a heightened level of urgency that will come with dealing with matters of gender-based violence. But can we already feel some of the interventions being made here when it comes to recognizing the seriousness of gender-based violence?
To be honest, looking at the cases that we have a database that we cannot even service at the moment because of the rise in issues. That's the first thing. And the declaration is acknowledged, it is appreciated, because it is indeed, like you say, a national disaster, and it requires emergency reactions and responses. But unfortunately, a woman who reported a case, say, 6 months ago versus one who reports it today after this declaration will deal with likely the exact same circumstances, from policing, where the challenges still remain there. For instance, there are some police stations that are so well equipped to handle the issue from the minute a woman walks in to report the matter, how the matter is resolved, synchronizing and connecting her to medical services that may be required after that, psychological services, as well as even linking a woman to a shelter versus another police station in a different community where there are jokes that are made about where were you going, what were you wearing, what did you expect, etc. So I think the key factor about this declaration of it being a national disaster comes back to us awaiting a much needed national disaster management plan. The same way heads and experts and amazing minds in the country were put together to say, okay, we have COVID, for example, that has been declared a disaster. We need that same urgency and a plan that consolidates government at all levels, from municipal, provincial, and national, coming up with plans and then putting them together to see how can we together work on the solution. But without a plan, without the consolidation, it's really just going to be declarations and I would dare to say genuine. I really do think the efforts are genuine.
Yeah.
But just as we have so many beautiful laws already on paper, unless the implementation is looked at, nothing is really going to change, unfortunately.
And let's come to the issue around the festive season and the festive period, where many will be indulging in, all sorts of activities, be it alcohol as well. When you look at the statistics, particularly around the festive season, what does it say pertaining to gender-based violence? Do you always see an increase of gender-based violence cases?
We absolutely do. In fact, even before looking at the festive season, just the weekend, Friday nights and Saturday, there's a massive increase in the reported cases. We used to have a help desk at one of the magistrates' courts in Soweto, and we could not handle the influx of cases that we would get just over the weekend. So payday, weekend, etc. So of course, festive season is much worse. Alcohol and substance abuse will increase. People also get to this realization that I'm unemployed, my children perhaps are needing Christmas clothes, or I'm now thinking about 2026 school fees, and that stress leads to some of the increase in the alcohol and the substance abuse. And might I add, I'm not using any of these factors as justification for abuse, but we can't ignore the fact that the increase in the cases that we see, the cases that are reported, are definitely linked to that. So as a team, just the other day, we were wondering, what is it that we can do to equip ourselves to handle these matters? And there's a sad and really stark realization that probably not much, because Lady Liberty at the moment is calling for partners, calling for donors to come and support us. We cannot handle the influx. So we know that even if we do get cases, we'll end up ourselves having to send them back to the police station or send them back to maybe some of the bigger organization. And even then, we have no guarantee of any resolution or any immediate assistance, but just hope that at least they get to be heard and at least are put in safe spaces or shelters or temporary housing while the matter is being resolved, and the courts also get back to the normal sort of hours of functioning. However, the courts do make themselves available for urgent matters, etc., but that information is not really widespread. So most people don't have access when they actually need it, and we can definitely anticipate a rise over the festive season. Definitely.
And Ms. Mkandhla, I have run out of time, but I just want to quickly squeeze in here a question surrounding, women who may find themselves in vulnerable positions, particularly over the festive season. What advice do you have for them, particularly those who may somewhat be in an abusive relationship?
So it's such a tough one. What we've realized and are working on as an organization is that when a woman picks up the phone and contacts us, for example, they might initially be saying, help me access legal services or take me to court. This person has done this and that. But sometimes they're so traumatized by the incident that they can't get through a phone call without crying. Then we realize that before we talk legal or any other solutions, let's look at a bit of trauma counseling and therapy. From there, we might then realize that she has no place to go. So then we look at integration with the shelters. We're in partnership with the National Shelter Movement of South Africa as an example. So once she's placed in a safe house, then we look at, okay, what is it that you're needing right now? What can we help you with right now? If not, we can't give that solution, then we at least see how best to support. But I think the advice I would give is women need to start It's very convoluted, but with the time that we have, I think I would say reach out for help. Sometimes that help is screaming for a neighbor to hear you, unfortunately. Other times the help is just running and getting to a police station. Sometimes the help is sneaking out at night and finding a friend or getting to a shelter to get that assistance. Other time the help is a lot more systemic, or takes people, whether it's family, friends, your employers as well, depending on what policies they have to support. But I would say, as advice, get help. There's no shame in being abused. I know there's still stigma attached to it, but if you don't call for help, like in my language, you say, umntana okhalela embelekweni uzofela embelekweni. So if a child does not cry, same concept, if you don't cry for help, then no one can come and help you.
All right, Ms. Mkandhla, thank you so much for your time. That's Nobubele Sam Mkandhla, the lawyer and founder of Lady Liberty South Africa, just giving us her insights in terms of gender-based violence and what women can do, particularly over the festive period.